Moving on to updates about the U.S. president now. The former First Lady of the United States, Michelle Obama, has criticized U.S. President Donald Trump in a scathing new video posted on her social media. Michelle Obama accuses him of what she calls a willful mismanagement of the coronavirus crisis. In the video released by Joe Biden's campaign, Michelle Obama notes that more Americans have died from Covid-19 than those who have died in Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam and the Korean Wars combined, and that the commander-in-chief, sadly, has been missing in action. She urged the voters to vote for Joe Biden, who she says, unlike Donald Trump, has an appropriate response plan to the pandemic. Let's listen in now to some excerpts from the video.
Today, more Americans have died from this virus than died in the wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, and Korea combined. Take all those lives bravely sacrificed and double it. That is roughly the scale of this tragedy. And our commander-in-chief, sadly, has been missing in action. And his willful mismanagement of the COVID crisis is just one example of his negligence. When wildfires rage out west, he says nothing for weeks. When Americans of all backgrounds peacefully protest racism and police violence, he disparages them, yet eggs on heavily armed militias. When our heroic young men and women answer the call and give their lives for our country, he calls them suckers and losers and publicly mocks Gold Star families and prisoners of war. It's painful to think that months into this crisis, this is still where we are, with no clear plan, no peace of mind. And the worst part is, it didn't have to be like this. Look around the world. So many other countries aren't experiencing this level of extended suffering and uncertainty. These countries were hit by the same viruses we were. They had the same kind of resources to contain it as we did. But what they didn't have to contend with was this president, a man who had every resource at his disposal, the finest medical experts, our best intelligence, and yet ignored all the advice and failed to produce a plan to provide enough tests for worried families or protective equipment for our healthcare workers. A man who knew how deadly this virus is, but who lied to us and told us it would just disappear. Who, in the greatest crisis of our lifetimes, doubled down on division and resentment, railed against measures that could have mitigated the damage, and continues to hold massive events without requiring masks or social distancing, knowingly exposing his own supporters to a dangerous virus. 7 months later, he still doesn't have a plan for this virus. 7 months later, he still won't wear a mask consistently and encourage others to do the same, even when those simple actions could save countless lives. Instead, he continues to gaslight the American people by acting like this pandemic is not a real threat. And yet, even in the face of all this incompetence, Americans keep digging deeper, finding new reserves of strength, doing whatever it takes to get through this. That's one of the beautiful things that has given me hope over the past 4 years, our country's resilience.
Let's now shift our focus to India. Recording a surge in Covid-19 cases, India is now trailing behind only the United States on the list of the world's most coronavirus-affected countries. With a total nearing 4.65 million cases, India's overcrowded cities and the poor state of the country's healthcare system is now making it almost impossible for doctors and gravediggers alike to keep up with the raging numbers. With more than 100,000 deaths nationwide, India's tally of infections has now crossed 6.6 million. But there is still little sign of any sustained fall in new daily numbers. Since its first virus burial in April, The Islamic graveyard of Jadid Qabristan in Delhi has now seen more than 700 funerals on a patch of adjoining waste ground designated for pandemic victims. The graveyard digger working at the cemetery explains that there is no space left to bury coronavirus victims.
हमारे कब्रिस्तान में जो हमें जगह लॉट की गई थी वो जगह हमारी भर चुकी है सारी। अब इसलिए हमने कल मीटिंग करके हमें नई जगह लॉट हुई है और इसकी वजह से वो सफाई करके नई जगह निकालने के लिए जेसीबी आई है।
A respite in infections has cut the virus burials to about 4 a day from 10 in the summer. But the graveyard, founded in 1924, would soon be full.